On the Hoopsville hotline, David Arseneault, the head coach of Grinnell, his team 20-7, the automatic bid winners of the Midwest Conference. David or Dave, I don't even know. You tell me how you want to be referenced as, but we're very glad to have you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pat. Dave is fine. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. It's easier for me to remember Dave because I've been talking about Dave all day and all weekend. When Dave went off to his very important day job work meetings and left me in charge of Hoopsville with all of these things around us. You see all the ways to contact us. I can't access any of those, so if you're trying to reach us today, please message us using the D3Hoops hashtag and right at D3Hoops. But Dave, man, I gotta be honest with you. I was going through all of the stuff that Dave sent me over. There's like, you see the little basketball here in the corner. I guess it's in this corner, right? And it's like there's one for almost every team representing all of these teams that he's talked to in the last 5 or 6 years. And of course, there's nothing for Grinnell. And it's very, very much this Dave rant for more than a decade. He's like, I'm not talking to the Grinnell until they make the NCAA tournament. And I'm like, Dave's giving me the keys. I got the wheel. I'm going to talk to Grinnell no matter what. And looks, you guys made the NCAA tournament anyway. So I don't know who's right here or who's wrong, but I'm super glad to have you on this show. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm super glad to finally make the NCAA tournament. I didn't want to talk to myself until we got a chance to make the NCAA tournament. And so I don't blame Dave at all. I still love Dave for everything that he does for D3 Hoops and miss him. Not that I'm unhappy to talk to you, Pat. I am happy to talk to you, but no, we're thrilled to finally, after a very, very long break, be back in the NCAA tournament.
That break is a long time. That break extended back before you were even a player at Grinnell. Were you a ball boy in 2001? This is an origin story portion that I don't even know.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I went to the NCAA tournament game. I remember that and was around the team. It was probably my freshman year of high school. I was in 8th grade, and now I'm 38 years old. So that's a very, very long time ago. And the break has been long and hard, and a lot of hard work has gone into it by the guys on the team and present and past players. But again, just super excited to be back in the mix.
And so many players in your mix in any given year, any given season. For those who somehow don't know, we're now going to talk about the system, and that's capital T, capital S, that Grinnell runs. Wherein, among many things that happen, you guys run in 5 guys at a time to the point of, playing 20, maybe it was even 21 guys on Saturday in the conference championship game against Lake Forest. Over the course of this season, 19 different guys have started a game for you. Tell us just if you give us the short version of what the system is, because you would do a better job explaining it than I ever would for these listeners and viewers today.
Yeah, it's essentially rotating groups of 5 guys on the floor, for the most part, groups of 5 guys on the floor, and just trying to create a level of pace and play as hard as you possibly can, and have some fun with it, And I think that it's evolved in different iterations over the years, even dating back to when my dad first started running it. And every season is just a little bit different iteration, just depending on the personnel that we have.
Well, let's talk about how it evolves, and I think. I need to ask you because I need to ask you. I need to know. There was a point on Saturday, for example, where you guys, I think out of your first 52 shots, only 17 of them were from 3-point range, which is unusual for you guys. Only 17, only a third of your shots from 3-point range. And then the rest of the way, it was even worse or fewer, I guess, only about a quarter from beyond the arc. Tell me about how the system evolved for you guys this weekend. Has it been gradual over the course of the season? What is it looking like right now for you guys?
Geez, Pat, when you phrase it like that with those statistics, it doesn't even sound like the Grinnell system at all, And
I mean, so I must say, in our team Slack over here yesterday, Ryan Scott, who is our X's and O's hound, our guy who watches more film, more video than anybody else, says they're not even running the system over there anymore. So that was the impetus to ask you that question. Got to give Ryan his shout out.
Yeah, well, I think it is interesting because I think that a lot of times Grinnell basketball just gets lumped into the same system. And I understand why, but I do think that every year is just a little bit different. This year, of course, has been different. We've taken probably a few less 3-point shots. We've actually shot the ball a little bit worse from the 3-point line. I also just think how the game has changed and evolved over the last few years, and there are more and more teams taking 3-point shots, which means they also know how to defend teams taking 3-point shots, and we're a little less different on that front. Maybe our defense is still more unorthodox than how most people play, but I think offensively you can probably find a lot of teams that are trying to hunt 3-point shots and trying to play similar and trying to attack the rim, and so it has changed. I don't know exactly why we took so few this weekend. It wasn't completely intentional, but it's just kind of the way that it worked out.
I mean, you can see it, right? And of course, we've seen it at the pro level, and you know this full well over the course of the past, I would say, decade plus. I'm not really an expert on how the pro game has developed, but we see it filtering down to Division III as well. You look at a shot chart, and you have, I would say, about half the schools now. It's like everything is around the arc or underneath the basket. The death of the mid-range jumper, all of that thing. You guys were doing 3 points and or layups, before it was popular. And I could see what you're saying is that if everybody else is doing it, then they're seeing something like that a lot more often. It makes it easier for them to defend.
Yeah, and I also think that just the way maybe big guys have traditional bigs. I'm not saying there are no traditional bigs, but I think that a lot of big guys are just more skilled now. Maybe even stepping out to the arc, moving a little bit better, being able to defend at the arc, and maybe teams switching a lot. And so I think that also just kind of comes into play with how the game's evolved, and for us trying to stay a little bit ahead of the curve. I think that we want to still be creative and unique and different in a lot of ways, but it becomes challenging when more teams are doing the same thing. And also just I think the quality of basketball player continues to get better and better at all levels, and especially at the Division III level.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. You certainly, I don't want to go back and look at video from 20 years ago because, well, first off, I'd have to haul out a VCR out of my storage closet. But secondly, yeah, I don't know what that would look like. Does this affect how you guys do the pressing and your front court or your back court defense as well? How does that, because you're not getting the 3-for-2 advantage that the numbers would have wanted you to get in the past?
Yeah, Pat, that's a great question because I think a lot more teams are becoming comfortable taking 3-point shots against us as well.
Yeah.
Even if you looked at box scores from 10, 15 years ago, you might see a team take single-digit 3-point attempts against us, and you might even see some teams take 0 3-point attempts. And I think that as that's become more of a staple within another team's regular offense, they've included it against us as well. And so, it affects how we have to kind of spread the floor or our transition lanes defensively or what we're keying in on a little bit. But, at the end of the day, like it's still for us, it's really about the energy, the effort, just trying to play as hard as we possibly can, seeing if we can wear another team down, and use our depth and playing a lot of guys to get to another team's bench.
He's David Arseneault. He's the head coach of Grinnell College in Grinnell, Pennsylvania. I think of it
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I don't know what I was saying, man. Pennsylvania. Iowa is the team that's the state that's directly that way of me. The next state south is behind me. I don't know where Pennsylvania came from. I've been a Midwest guy for 18 years, and Dave is going to say Pennsylvania. I'm going to big red check mark on that one. I just lost a point on my rating for this game or for this show. That's not good. All right. And now that completely throws me off as to where I was going to go with this. So, but I did want to say, your 9th season as head coach, officially fully head coach, school record 20 wins this season. And of course, with the 2 wins back-to-back nights at the Midwest Conference Tournament. I often thought that for you guys, pace of play was one of the reasons why you guys kind of struggled in the conference tournament previously. Doing that stuff on back-to-back nights had to make it really difficult to come back out and have those legs the next day, because it's not just that you're going from 7 o'clock on Friday night to 7 o'clock on Saturday night. Often that Midwest Conference schedule is like 7 o'clock on Friday night to 4 o'clock the next day or something along those lines. So when I was looking at what you guys were doing this weekend, I was like, oh, the reason why this change was made was in order to be a little bit more competitive on back-to-back nights. I'm getting from you that this is not just a one weekend thing, but it seems like it has that benefit.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And also just looking at it, and we really tried to spread out the minutes on Friday night. I mean, of course, you want to go into the weekend and you want to try to win two games, but in order to win two, you have to win the first one as well, And so there is a little bit of trying to just figure out how to manage the minutes and how to spread it out, and also just trying to figure out what is the right pace with the quick turnaround. As you noted, I think we played the early game on Friday, and that was at 5 p.m., and then the conference championship the next day at 3 p.m. So there is a quick turnaround there, and just trying to figure things out. But you're right, it is similar to how we've played all season. I do think it was maybe a little bit slower than a typical regular season game, and probably even slower than maybe a non-conference game. But we were more comfortable with that pace, just kind of how we've played over the course of the year.
Dave does these things where he's like, "Tell me about your team," and he lists like 3 or 4 guys who are high in the rotation. I don't have time to talk about all 20 guys, but I do want to talk about. And I'm probably going to butcher the name because I didn't find a good pronunciation guide for Kai Tehuki. Did I get that at all?
Yeah, you got it very, very close. Kai Tehuki.
Okay, great. I just say it faster. Got it. So this is a guy, he was our regional rookie of the year last year. The bio, what we have is amazing, right? Born in Bulgaria, hometown in New Zealand, and of course he's your leading scorer. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, how he got to you guys, and secondly, kind of what his skill set is, what he brings to the team, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so he's like a 6'5", 6'6" kind of combo guard, long, athletic, excellent shooter, and just through the recruiting process, like he had reached out to us, and he is a U.S. citizen, and so through that, his brother actually went to Grinnell during the COVID era when it was completely online, and so he never actually even had come to campus, but then it just worked out, and he had a really great first year where he led the country in scoring. This year he's gotten off obviously as a marked man. He got off to a little bit of a slow start because he broke his foot in September in a non-basketball related kind of fluke thing, and so that kind of set him back where he didn't really get much of a preseason. And then of course we just knew it was going to be a little bit more challenging when there's a full year of film, and game plans are now completely designed with you at the top of it. So but he's been, he's averaged over 20 points a game, and I guess that's been a little bit of a down year for him, but he was named first team all conference again. And he really has just had another solid year in terms of his ability to stretch the floor for us, handle the ball, and just create opportunities.
See, now I have to go back and try to do some back of the napkin math to try to figure out career points. 12, I don't have to do the math. It's right here on the website. 1,255 career points in 2 seasons is a pretty good way to start. But you're right. Obviously, you go from 27.8 to only 20.4 points a game. I suppose it means that people have, he's not sneaking up on anybody, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
When you have guys like that, and then you have, your other really big scorers, I assume that your goal is to, spread these guys out through your shifts, through your various cohorts, to use the more academic term, of players between your A shift, B shift, C shift, or whatever terminology you use. This is just what I'm saying. How much does that? How much do those kind of combinations of guys change over the course of the year? What the individual groups of 5 look like.
Yeah, it's a constant like trial and error process, where they're changing, can change daily, and then sometimes we'll stick with something for multiple weeks if it seems to be working and we're staying healthy, and it might change game to game based on foul trouble or an injury, but it's something that I spend so much time doing. And I think that just trying to figure out who plays well together, who likes playing together, different positions that guys can play. And then some years it does work out where it's multiple balance shifts, trying to spread it out equally. Other years it can be a top heavy shift that maybe just plays slightly longer, which to the naked eye might not be noticed, but for us, just in terms of keeping time will happen. And so, it's just a constant try different things and experiment. And when we find something that sticks or works, then we just kind of try to milk it.
Sometimes it's the Jack Taylor shift where he just plays every shift forever.
Every once in a while. And you know what, actually, in our last regular season game, we actually rotated groups of four around a guy a little bit just to try to see if that might be the way that we were going to go. Again, just trying to figure something out. Usually not quite as extreme as the Jack Taylor 4-man shifts for the duration of a game.
So you spent a couple years as a coach in the G League. We're just going to call it the G League. It was called something else back then, right? And do you still have conversations with people around the theory and the evolution of basketball? Or are people like picking your brain for those sorts of things? Because you had success there, even in I would say, how would I say this? A style of basketball or a roster framework that was not really conducive to what you'd like to do. Do you hear from people that talk about, have these conversations at a bigger level?
Yeah, I still stay in touch with a lot of people, and you said I had success. That was very generous way for you to put it. I probably should have been actually, to be honest, I probably should have been fired after my first year with the record that we had, but they picked up the option. Then we did have a lot of success the second year where we kind of changed some things and adjusted to really a different set of rules, from roster size to shot clock length to how the game's officiated to quarter length to everything. But yeah, still having a lot of conversations. And I think that it is interesting because I think one of the biggest complaints right now, not from me, of course, but one of the biggest complaints maybe that you'll hear about the NBA is that there's too much 3-point shooting and maybe not enough defense. I just think that I still don't know personally if we've reached a tipping point where teams are even going to try to start taking more 3-point shots. I don't know if the rules are going to adapt or change even more to further the 3-point line or who knows what other creative ideas there are out there. But I'm certainly just thrilled to have had that opportunity. I think it helped me learn a lot about just coaching the game of basketball, and also being away from Grinnell for a stretch helped me as well, knowing that I wanted to come back, but I think it was good to get away. So I'm just appreciative of that opportunity as well.
I'm just glad that worked out for you because, you and I chatted in 2014 after the Midwest Conference semifinals. You guys had beaten Ripon, and then you guys lost in the conference championship the next day. And then you left Grinnell for 2 years, and I took that personally. No, I didn't take it personally, but I'm just glad that worked out for you. And I'm hopeful that, here, this conversation does not spur you to leave Grinnell once again.
No. But if we could turn back the clock, Pat, I had a full head of hair then. Well, I don't know if it was full, but I had more than I have now, and I certainly remember those days. And I don't think I'm going to be going anywhere though, Pat.
We'll run a clip of that at the end of this segment where you can see indeed a younger David with a fuller head of hair and an early 40s Pat Coleman who was to whom the camera was much kinder, shall we say, as we had that conversation in the St. Norbert football locker room with a old camcorder and no external microphone and people walking by us. It was all good stuff, all great stuff. All right, you guys are not the only team playing this kind of pace that's in the NCAA tournament. Of course, Greenville and Coach George Barber has had some good success running this in the SLIAC, the St. Louis Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. They make the NCAA tournament as well. Geography suggests you guys might go into the same place together just because Greenville's hard to get people to, but I don't know. I think you guys are both probably on a 4-line. Maybe you'll end up on a 3-line in a pod. I don't think that we'll have the ability to see you guys play a first round game. It would certainly be amazing to have you guys in the same pod. And I should say right now, of course, to promote that the bracket will come out Monday at noon Eastern, 11 Central on NCAA.com. And I can talk more about it then once we have a bracket. But, the thought of playing another system team, does that just turn into matter, antimatter explosion and we annihilate the whole place? How would that work out?
Yeah, it's not that appealing to actually watch, and just a lot of stoppages in play. I think when we played them earlier this year, we were fortunate to get a win, but I think we turned it over 40 plus times probably, and it had me like more uptight and, and nervous than any other game, just because, it's like it's dealing with yourselves in a lot of ways. And they play even faster and score even more points than us, and so So I am happy for Dr. George Barber. His team's gone on an incredible run here. I don't know how many straight games they've won, but they've gone on an incredible run. And just looking forward to seeing what they can do in the NCAA tournament.
They were 2-5 when you played them. You beat them 125 to 101. That was back on. I have to squint now. That was back in November 30th. November. Dave knows, and the audience probably knows too. I'm way in football mode at that point. I think that was the same weekend as the second round of the Division III football playoffs. All right. So we talked about how the system evolves. There's just one other thing, of course, when you get into the NCAA tournament, you have two new things to deal with. One is you can only suit up 15 guys, and that might change, obviously, rotations and how things work. Also, you've got these media timeouts that are going to come every 4 minutes. How do you anticipate how that might affect you guys going into a first round playoff game, wherever that is?
Yeah, those are two great points, and I think that it's going to be obviously a challenge because I think maybe we played, we have 20 on the roster and we've played almost everybody, 19 or 20 in pretty much every game when they've been healthy and available. And so that's certainly going to be a change and just kind of figure out what makes the most sense for us and kind of how that fits into the game plan for us. And then with the media timeouts, I mean, we don't have those in our league. We have played a couple games this year when we went up to, I think that the Michigan League started incorporating them for the first time this year. So we played 2 games to start the year up at Kalamazoo and at Alma. And, so that gave us a little bit of feel for what that was like. Of course, that was way back in early November, the opening weekend. So going to have to kind of draw on that and just see what makes sense with the game plan, review kind of that film so that we can just try to get more comfortable with it in practice and have a level of expectation of what's going to take place. And then just try to put our best foot forward and see what happens.
Because I remember, going back to, and again, this might also be before you played, but when Grinnell was on ESPN with Beloit and how the ESPN format and all the timeouts and all the breaks there really disrupted the game for you guys back then. It made it, you said, you talked earlier about something not being something to watch. That game was not particularly pretty to watch either.
No, it really wasn't. It was before my time as a player,
right.
So, but I'm not raining on the guys that were playing. Yeah, and so you're right. Like it's just going to be a little bit different feel than what we're used to for most of the season, and I think there are some benefits to it. I think there are some ways that it might hurt us in some cases, and so we just got to figure out how to maximize the benefits and use it to our advantage and get the right combinations of guys on the floor.
All right, one Hoopsville tradition which will definitely withstand the 1 day transition from Dave to me, as we always give the guest the final word. Do you have any final shout outs, final thoughts for the audience today?
Yo, just a shout out to Hoopsville. Thank you, Pat, for taking this. Thanks to Dave for all his hard work. I look forward to talking to you sometime, Dave. I can't wait for that opportunity, and just appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Dave Arseneault with the very gentle little throwing down of the gauntlet, challenging Dave to come talk to him at some point. He's the head coach of Grinnell and his team 20-7 and headed to the NCAA playoffs. We'll be back with more on Hoopsville in just a moment. Congratulations getting back to the title game. You guys have gotten to the conference tournament, I guess, 12 times in the last 14 years. Haven't been to the title game since 11 and haven't won the conference tournament title since 2001.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to get into postseason play, especially with the number of teams in our league and only 4 making the postseason. At the same time, it's also nice to get to the title game. And we have struggled in the past.